Alright, says we live. Hold up. Let's check. Okay, we live on giftedmindstate.com. It's lit. Alright, hold on. Now I gotta check the YouTube. Gotta do this. Let's make sure these levels is right. This time I gotta make sure I'm heard. Gotta make sure I'm heard, baby. Where we at? Live. Damn, I don't even come up on my own shit. Alright, here we go. Peace. Let's see, check. Nope, gotta be louder. Check. Damn, my fucking shit is, my voice is low. And this motherfucker lagging. Hold on. Check. Hold on, bear with me for everyone who's watching it after. Bear with me. There we go. That's what the fuck I'm talking about. Alright, now I gotta share it. Let me clear my throat. Let me share this on live. Yeah, alright. Gotta turn that shit off. Gotta turn that shit off. Alright, let's share it. You know, I had an issue with sharing shit. Like, I don't know. I had an issue with sharing shit. There we go. Peace. It's your guy, young Eli. My lord. However you choose to want to address me, either or those names are the same. Huh? Cause Eli is my lord. I forgot what language. It's one of them Hebrew languages. But let me see if I can share this to the Instagram. No, I cannot. That's fine though. It's okay. Here we go. Actually, no. Hold on. I'm just sharing right now. I gotta, cause I didn't even think I was gonna go live tonight, but I did have the intentions of going live, but I didn't think I was gonna really fall through on it. Thought I was gonna probably do it tomorrow. Yeah, text my bro. That's crazy. All right, so I guess I'm gonna have to do a little YouTube video for the story, right? Put it right there. We live, baby. Pull up. Hold on. Go to show you go to giftedmindstate.com, link in the bio. Where is that? Type it in real fast. Gifted. I guess it's moving slow because all this power being used on the computer just to go live. By the way, we live on my website, giftedmindstate.com, and we're also live on YouTube, of course, obviously. But with that being said, this shit taking forever. So yeah, I'm gonna wait till this load up, and then I'll put it on the stories. And then we're gonna get into this presentation. You know, we're gonna get into this presentation right here, because it is very important. It's about the history of religion, so I might as well just give a little summary of what's going on tonight. So the history of religion, where we'll be starting from the origin of these belief systems, right? And I'm not talking about like where you go to the origin of humanity in Africa. No, we understand that they dealt with spirituality. We understand that the way their concept of God or gods is different compared to the European concept, right? So we're gonna go from the beginning to the end, because you gotta start at the root. That's the only way to, dissect shit. So, well, let me go through this virtual community center right here. By the way, if you've never been to giftedmindstate.com, check it out. I got a whole bunch of t-shirts, which is merch that align with my music. We got black seed oil of oregano, what else? Hair moisturizer, hair conditioner spray, right? Leave-in hair conditioner spray. There we go. All right. So I can put it on my stories now. It finally out. Yo, maybe it's my computer too. I gotta get more memory, because I think I already ran through a terabyte. Peace. Look, I'm live on YouTube, and I'm live on giftedmindstate.com. Go to giftedmindstate.com, click on the virtual community center, hit the live stream, and tune in with your boy. Huh? Come get this knowledge. Yeah. So I'm gonna send that link in the bio. Right? Send. And then, you know what? I'm gonna share this to one more person, because I know they're not gonna wanna miss this one. Because this one, out of all my other lives, is deep. As some would say. I mean, it really ain't too deep to me. It's just a whole bunch of hoopla, because it's a bunch of fairy tales that got taken too serious, and it went too far to where now it done trickled down to a bunch of people exploiting humanity with these religions. What is it? Oh yeah, here we go. Boom. Alright. So with that being said, let's get started. Let's get started. Alright, so I haven't done this yet, but I always wanted to do this. So we're gonna start off by promoting my products. So this is my cocoa butter hand and body lotion. Right, it's made with raw cocoa butter. It's made with no chemicals, so you're getting these natural oils into your skin. It's moisturizing it, it's keeping it moist. You don't gotta reapply, and it definitely repairs chapped skin and so forth. So if you got cuts and so forth, I mean, it definitely help out. So yeah, check that out. I just released the ebook. It's called You're Wealthy If You're Healthy, and it's 10 simple vegan recipes, right? And these are my favorite recipes because I haven't been eating any animal products, any soy, high processed foods, any sugar, all that stuff that's bad for us, pesticide, all that stuff. I stayed away from it for a whole year now. It's been a whole year. Congratulations to myself, but yeah, so I just wanted to encourage other people to do the same thing because, I mean, health is really wealth. When you treat your gut right, you treat your mind right. And when you treat your mind right, you can treat your body right. And, it's all the holy trinity, as they say. So, yeah, check that out. Check out the ebook. Get inspired because it's a lot of dishes that you've heard of or probably that you already had. And it had, all these bad ingredients like animal and so forth. So it's healthier substitutions. And you technically not missing out on anything because when it comes to the dishes, all that matters is how you season, right? The herbs, right? So with that being said, yeah. Oh yeah, this is my Mercury t-shirt. This is inspired by Marvin Gaye. If you ever his album The Ecology, what was it? Mercy Mercy Me, right? He had a lyric in there and it said what was it? Mercury oils wasted upon our sea, a fish full of mercury. That when he said that, says, hold on, what? Fish full of mercury. So I looked it up because I thought this was during like my start of this health journey. So I thought fish was healthy. Come to find out, it's contaminated with mercury. And mercury, it contributes to a whole bunch of things that the average American actually deals with, mental issues and so forth. So yes, this is kind of a shirt to bring awareness that the mercury is in your fish and it's illuminated as you see. That is the reflective design, and it also goes good with those shorts. So that's why I paired it with those shorts right there, reflective light bulb, the GMS logo. But yes, basically, for those who already are aware about the mercury in the waters and the fish from our factories and garbage and all that other bullshit that we be fucking the ecosystem up with, yeah, spread the word. Next one is my brain and gut access, or your gut and brain access, or your brain and gut connection, however you choose to want to address it. This is what I was talking about. When you feed the gut, you feed in your mind right. So when you feed the gut right, you feed your mind right. When you eat good, you feel good. So this is another shirt to bring awareness. Majority of my clothes is technically to bring awareness, which is majority of my music is to bring awareness, which is why I said my clothing aligns with my music. So, just a whole nother thing. You may not like my music, but you may like the clothes. If you don't like the clothes, guess what? You gonna like the black seed oil that we got, right? Told you got black seed oil. Black seed oil right there. Run down the health benefits. It helps with inflammation, asthma, high cholesterol, metabolic syndrome, autoimmune disorders, and diabetes. Now, I make this myself, and I make it myself because a lot of these brands out here don't technically it's not so healthy. Learning about these oils and the heat temperatures that they're supposed to be under, and what happens if it's too high and this and that. So just knowing about the whole process, I'd rather just do it myself. And since I've been doing it myself, people have been asking me to sell it. So it's what we doing now, selling it. As I help myself, I'm trying to help everybody else. Then the hair conditioner spray, right? This is made with shea butter. It got rosemary. Actually, this is the wrong. This one here doesn't help manage seborrheic dermatitis. I do actually have another formula for the leave-in conditioner, hairspray, and the moisturizer, and that's for the seborrheic dermatitis, but this one ain't it. This one is actually, so disregard that helps manage seborrheic dermatitis. Everything else, it helps though. It has shea butter, what was it? Coconut oil, and it has a whole bunch of good oils in it, and it got rosemary oil. I mean rosemary water, not rosemary water. Rose water. There we go, rose water, and it got rosemary essential oil. That's another thing. That's why I kept saying that. So check that out. All the ingredients is on the website giftedmindstate.com. Just go on there and hit the menu, and you'll see it. Go to hair moisturizer. It's a cocoa butter and shea butter hair moisturizer, and the way it makes your hair, oh my gosh, like you don't have to reapply this every day. You can literally apply it, I say twice, 3 times a week. You know, apply it one day, next day just throw some water in your hair, rehydrate it, because it's, and the thing is, what I love about my product, it does not cause any buildup. Right, there's no buildup. I love it. So check that out. Actually, this one is out of stock. This one and this one right here is out of stock. So when it's back in stock though, sign up on the email list and sign up as a member. Get those reward points. But sign up and you'll be notified when they're back in stock. Next we got the elderberry syrup, right? Elderberry syrup help with your immune system. Got the zinc and so forth in it. This one is made with a local raw honey, so it has the proper benefits in it. And one thing I like about it is the fact that a lot of people don't know about honey, and that you're not supposed to heat up honey, and you devalue the nutrients when you heat up honey. So this, and I'm not saying there's no other product, but we are another outlet. If you can't get no elderberry syrup, we got it. It tastes great. And you get all the benefits. All the benefits, So treat yourself right. Head to giftedmindstate.com and get yourself some elderberry syrup. And then we also got the sea moss. Yeah, we got sea moss. You heard Dr. Sebi and so many other people talk highly about sea moss. We got the nutrients in it. It got the minerals in it. It got the iodine. It got everything that you need, the essentials. So, we got the sea moss. We ship anywhere you at, right? We have the capabilities to make sure that you get your product in a timely fashion, and it's going to be it's going to be fresh. It's not going to be hot. It's not going to be whatever, So get your sea moss at giftedmindstate.com. And last but not least, this is just it. Shop consciously. That is the new slogan. We want you to shop consciously because the prices is right and the products is made with you in mind. So, yeah, head down to giftedmindstate.com. You can do that now, or you can wait till after the live, right? But with that being said, we are going to start because it's getting a little late, and I hope this don't take too long because oh man, this like I said, this is a powerful one. This one we got 248 slides. I may have to do 2 parts, right? So religion. Right? The history of religion. Religion, it may cause temporary blindness in small doses. In large doses, it may cause death and war. Keep away from the children. Keep it away from them. Right? Give these children a chance. It's like what I said in my song Choices. Give these children a chance. You don't gotta make them aware about some spook, some God, some Jesus, some whatever you believe in, right? You believe in it, but you can't prove it. So give the children a chance to believe in themselves. Teach them self-awareness. Teach them self-love, right? Teach them to prioritize self-care. You feel what I'm saying? And if you can't do it, you're going to have to do the work yourself so you can teach your children, because this right here is why the cycle continues, because it's the children are the future. And if we constantly keep brainwashing the children with shit that's going to deter them from self-awareness, right? Which deters you from self-love. And if you ain't got no self-love, how you going to be selfless? Huh? You're just gonna be selfish. And being selfish sometimes could be good, but you got to be selfless. Selfless is where it's at. So, yeah, it deters. It deters from that. I'm telling you. So, Christianity, right? Christians are the largest religious group in 2015. Damn, these lights is hot. Sheesh. Christians are the largest religious group in 2015. So this poll is a little old, but you know it's relevant, and we already can assume that there's more Christians than ever. But the number of people in 2015 in the billions, it says 2.3 billion Christians around the world, right? 1.8 Muslims around the world, and I think they just said that there are more Muslims than Christians now. 1.2 billion unaffiliated, 1.1 billion Hindus, 0.5 half a billion Buddhists, right? A quarter what was that? That's a quarter, right? Quarter folk religion. You know, I don't even know what that is. 0.1 billion of other religions, and then the same for Jews, like. And then, mind you, with the Jews, look how low they are. But you wouldn't have these Christians without the Jews. You wouldn't have these Muslims without the Jews. But you wouldn't have you wouldn't have the Jews without the Hindus. Yeah. So let's get into it. We starting off with the Indus Valley Civilization. And look, this is kids Britannica. This is the Britannica for the children. Right? And look, they teaching the children, right? Hold on, these lights is a little parched. Alright. So it says one of the first civilizations in the world developed in the valley of the Indus River in Asia. In Asia. That's why you got Asiatics, right? You have what else do they call them? The Semitics, Afro-Asiatics, right? So it's a little incorrect. So it says it occupied both sides of what is now the border between Pakistan and India, right? Mind you, Pakistan and India. Put a bookmark on that. The Indus Valley Civilization lasted from about 2500 BCE to 1700 BCE. So now, let's drop down here to society and culture, but where it says, Indus merchants used carved stones called seals to mark their goods. Many seals show pictures of animals in form of writing. These seals have been found in Mesopotamia and what is now Iraq. This means that the two regions might have traded with each other, right? And then we're going to drop down over to history. And it says, beginning in about 5000 BCE. 5000 BCE. That's something else you're going to have to put a bookmark on, right? Farmers near what is now Iran began to gather in villages. In about 3500 BCE, settlers began to move eastward into the Indus Valley. By about 2500 BCE, the Indus Valley civilizations had developed at Harappa and other sites. The Indus Valley civilization probably broke down in stages between 2000 BCE and 1700 BCE. Understand and notice how they're saying BCE, before Common Era. They're not saying BC. So, this is funny. It's something funny to point out because it's so simple. It's like when you're dealing with facts, right, with reality, you're talking about BCE or CE. And then when you're dealing with religion, you're talking about BC. So in AD, right? So is it AD? I believe so. So anywho, with that being said, some historians blame invaders from the West, probably a group known as the Aryans. The climate change, floods, and diseases also might have hurt the civilization. So if you know about the Aryans, right, at one point in time, you had the Aryans and the Dravidians. And it is said that the Aryans felt superior to the Dravidians. The Dravidians were brown skinned. They were dark skinned. And they basically wiped out the Dravidians, right? So moving on, the history of Mesopotamia. History of Mesopotamia, right, is what? History of the region in southwestern Asia. Asia is still dealing with the Asiatics, right? Where the world's earliest civilization developed, right? Now we're dealing with the actual Britannica, and we're moving from the Indus Valley to the history of Mesopotamia, right? So it says the name comes from a Greek word meaning between rivers, referring to the land between the Tigris and Euphrates River. That is very significant to the Jews, the Hebrews, right? But the region can be broadly defined to include the area that is now eastern Syria, southeastern Turkey, right? Constantinople, Istanbul, right? And most of Iraq. The region was the center of the culture whose influence extended throughout the Middle East and as far as the Indus Valley, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. This is stuff that we can research, and this is why, as you see, when I take these screenshots, I leave the source up there. Now, I'm not too sure why other people, when they do present their information, they don't have any sources for anyone to actually go back to, any footnotes, so you can do your own research and see if it's true, and do your own extensive research to, make sure that the information that somebody presented was factual. I don't know why they don't do that. So I always felt, this is why I also do these presentations, because I feel it's necessary to have this information out there that's already out there basically, but with sources, so you can actually, go back and do your own little research. So it says this article covers the history of Mesopotamia from the prehistoric period up to the Arab conquest in the 7th century CE. If you know about the Arab conquest, that deals a lot with the Prophet Muhammad, right? That is the Muslim conquest. So moving on to Mesopotamia, right? This is just another one. This is bring it down. This is the worldhistory.org, which is the World History Encyclopedia, right? And the World History Encyclopedia says the early dynastic period of Mesopotamia is the modern day archaeological term for the era in Mesopotamian history, 2900 to 2334 BCE, during which some of the most significant cultural advances were made, including the rises of the cities, the development of writing, and the establishment of governments. This era was preceded by the Uruk period, 4100 to 2900 BCE, when the first cities were established in the region of Sumer, southern Mesopotamia, and succeeded by the Akkadian period, 2334 to 2218 BCE, when Mesopotamia was conquered by Sargon of Akkad, right, or Akkad, which was 2334 to 2279 BCE, and ruled by him and his successors at the Akkadian Empire. Then it says the term early dynastic period was coined by the Orientalist Henry Frankfurt. He was born 1897, died 1954, to mirror. So look at this. The term early dynastic period was coined to mirror the early dynastic period in Egypt. The early dynastic period. I'm not sure if they talk about the pre-dynastic period in Egypt though, or just the early first dynasties and so forth. But yeah, a similar period of development. It should be noted, however, that the advances of the Mesopotamia's early dynastic period differed from Egypt's in a significant way, notably in that Mesopotamia, even under the rule of Sargon or later empires, was never the cohesive ethnic or political entity Egypt was, and the kinds of cultural developments cited for this era were not as uniform as they were in Egypt. Now, understand that they say that they differ, and they do, right? But they're not so much different, because you can see similarities, you can see resemblances, you can see that there were contact, there was communication amongst each other, there was trade, obviously, right? There was exchange of ideas, and again, going back to trade, right? Trading the goods and trading the pottery and so forth, because a lot of things that was in Mesopotamia also was originated in Africa, in Egypt, in Nubia also, right? Southern Sudan. So here, the basic hydrology, hydrology, with its 6,695 kilometers, the Nile is the longest river on Earth. Now, you'll hear a lot of Moorish American Science Temple, however, these Shriners, right? These offshoot Shriners, these offshoot Sufi Shriners, right? They try to tell you that Egypt was over in America first. They try to tell you the pyramids was over in America first. They try to tell you that the Nile, the Mississippi River, is actually bigger than the Nile and so forth. But here you go, right here, right? The Nile is the longest river on Earth, with the Amazon and the Yangtze coming second and third. The total basin area discharges 3,200,000 a year. 200,000. What is that? I don't even know what that M stands for, but a year, right? And I guess miles. So what was it? Which makes it comparable to the Mississippi, the Congo, and the La Plata rivers. So then, as you see over here, you got the White Nile, you got the Blue Nile, and you got the Nile. The Blue Nile goes over into what you call Lake Vic. Actually, the White Nile goes over into Lake Victoria, and the Blue Nile goes over into Ethiopia, and it's, as you see, it's in the middle of Eritrea in Ethiopia. So, yeah, you know, they serve purpose though. So, the Blue Nile branch coming from the Ethiopian and Eritrean highlands, right? About 85% of the total annual discharge of the Nile Basin. Then they got the White Nile branch coming from the Great Lakes region. Talks about it discharges about 15% of the total annual discharge of the Nile Basin. Lake Victoria Subbasin, the catchment area, which discharges all the water in Victoria, Nile, and Jinja, Uganda. In Uganda, by the way, it's kind of now saying that over is kind of making me think, like, maybe that's why those Hebrews, right? Theodore Herzl, that's why he was trying to get these people, I think it was the Rothschilds again. He was trying to get them to help them get Israel in Uganda, right, in East Africa. So Phoenicia. Hold on, I gotta make sure. It's just crazy. It's hot. If I wasn't on the computer, I'd show you these lights. These lights is beaming on me. Where we at? Phoenicia. Phoenicia was an ancient thalassocratic civilization originated in the Levant region of the eastern Mediterranean, right? Primarily located in modern Lebanon. So it says Phoenicia is today's part of Turkey, Lebanon. Is it real? And Syria. And it wasn't Israel until 1948. We gotta be real. I mean, look, it's crazy. So, And I got this later in the thing too. We're gonna touch on Turkey and why, the whole civilization of Constantine coming from being a descendant of the Phoenicians and so forth, and we gonna get to all of that, all of that. So here we go. Phoenicia was an ancient civilization composed of independent city-states located along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, stretching through what is now Syria, Lebanon, and northern Israel. The Phoenicians were a great maritime people, known for their mighty ships adorned with horses' heads in honor of their god, of the son of the sea, Yam, the brother of Mot, and the god of death. The island city of Tyre and the city of Sidon were the most powerful states in Phoenicia, with Gebel, Byblos, and Baalbek as the most important spiritual religious centers. Phoenician city-states began to take form circa 3200 BCE and were firmly established by circa 2750 BCE. Phoenicia thrived as a maritime trader and manufacturing center from circa 1500 to 332 BCE, and was highly regarded as their skill in shipbuilding, glassmaking, and the production of dyes, an impressive level of skill in the manufacture of luxury and common goods. So that's why they call it purple people. Yam is their god, right? It says it right here. Yam is the brother of Mot, the god of death, right? He is the god of the sea. So Yam is a Semitic word, Yam for sea, was the god of the sea in the pantheon of the Canaanite Phoenicians. Depicted consistently as tyrannical, angry, violent, and harsh, Yam was the brother of Mot, the god of death, and is associated with chaos. This association is furthered by his identification with the Lotan, the Leviathan, the monster who churned the seas, right? He was, and man, shout out to Dr. Yo about the whole Leviathan 666. He personified the destructive aspects of both. He was the son of El, right? El is the supreme God. El is the father of Yahweh, right? Yahweh is everybody's God all of a sudden nowadays, right? So back then it wasn't though. Yahweh was once just a god in, for a little small tiny civilization. But he was the son of El, the supreme god of the Canaanite and Phoenician pantheon, and is also referred to as Prince Yam and beloved of El in the myths of the region. He is best known from the Ugaritic poem known as the Baal Cycle, which tells the story of his conflict with the fertility god Baal. Right, Baal is sometimes associated with Lucifer today, or the devil, so forth, whatever they call this mythical being. His defeat and Baal's supremacy over chaos and death. The tablets containing the Baal Cycle was unearthed in the excavation of Ugarit, which is modern-day Syria, following the ancient city's discovery in 1928. These tablets date to 1500 BCE, but are thought to have been a written record of a much older story passed down by oral transmission. And then it says the story has been often compared to the Mesopotamian epic of the Enuma Elish, but there are significant differences in that. First of all, the Enuma Elish is a cosmogony, which is detailing the beginnings of the world and universe, which is Genesis, right? Basically like Genesis in the Bible, or the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, first 5 books of Moses, while the Baal cycle is not. And secondly, Yam and Mot in the Baal cycle and are not as neatly defined as villains as Tiamat and Quengu are in the Enuma Elish. And then over here it says 1500 BCE is the date of the tablets of the Baal cycle from Ugarit, which tells the story of Yam and his struggle with Baal for kingship of the gods. Kingship, right? So what are they trying to say? I mean, isn't that like Jesus and Lucifer during what is it, this apocalypse, whatever the fuck, the Revelation shit, where they're gonna be fighting for Earth, and this is the Judgment Day where he gonna come and the angels gonna fight with demons. This is basically this. El's son, right? God's son, right? Is supposed to be fighting Baal, which I told you is the equivalent of Lucifer. We're gonna see that anyway. But the purple people, right, which is what I told you about when I read about it being these people, their expertise in dyes. So it says the purple dye manufactured and used in Tyre for the robes of Mesopotamian royalty gave Phoenicia the name by which we know it today, right? From the Greeks, phenokis for Tyrian purple, and also accounts for the Phoenicians being known as purple people by the Greeks because the dye was staining the skin of the workers. So when you talk about, like, I'm gonna give them a little shout out. When you talk about groups like ICU, right? I think it's ICU, what is that? IDIC College. Yo, I can't. Every time I say they group, it should always remind me of that shit. But yeah, fucking the Hebrew Niggerites, right? The nigger brews, right? The ones that want to be part of this mythological group of people, right? Called the Hebrew Israelites. Is it real? The children of Is it real, right? Anywho, let me stop. Anywho, but this is why, you know, their color is purple though, and you'll see a lot of Hebrews, they talk about purple and being purple people, and they're the purple people, this and that. So this is going back to the Phoenicians. But when you try to tell a Hebrew Israelite that they're Phoenicians or they're Canaanites, they will deny it, right? Because they're thinking they're coming from Shem, even though Shem is a mythical person, never existed. That being said, Herodotus cites Phoenicia as the birthplace of the alphabet, stating that it was brought to Greece by the Phoenician Cudmus sometime before the 8th century BCE, and that prior to that, the Greeks had no alphabet. The Phoenician alphabet is the basis for most Western languages written today in their city of Gabel. And you know what's interesting about them saying that the Phoenicians basically gave the Greeks their alphabet? Also the fact that the Romans come out of the Phoenicians, because the Romans come from the Etruscans, and the Etruscans were a civilization that sprouted from the Phoenicians, and this is their connection. This is why you go from the Greek to the Roman civilization, and then the Byzantine, and you know, all that other shit. And yeah, this is where we at today. So now you got the royal crown, which is all connected. That being said, it is also thought that many of the gods of ancient Greece were imported from Phoenicia, as there are certain indisputable similarities in some stories concerning the Phoenician gods Baal and Yam and the Greek deities of Zeus and Poseidon. It is also notable that the battle between the Christian God and Satan, as related in the biblical book of Revelations. Why didn't I finish? Did I? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Woo! Saved by the motherfucking screenshot. It is also notable that the battle between the Christian God and they didn't even say Jesus, right? They didn't say Yahweh or God. They said the Christian God. Some people call Jesus just God, right? And some people say they ain't no, Jesus ain't God. There's another God. Jesus is the Son of God. So this is another fork in the road for this this group, this religious group here. This is what causes the division. They can't agree on these things. So yeah, the battle between the Christian God and Satan, as related in the biblical book of Revelation, seem as much later version of the same conflict with many of the same details one finds in the Phoenician myth of Baal and Yam. In its time, Phoenicia was known as Canaan and is the land referenced in the Hebrew scriptures to which Moses led the Israelites from Egypt, and which Joshua then conquered. Then conquered what? according to the biblical books of Exodus, Joshua, but uncorroborated by other ancient texts and unsupported by the physical evidence thus far excavated, according to scholar Richard Miles. Damn, they just stopped it right there. I didn't even realize that. The city-states of Phoenicia flourished throughout maritime trade between circa 1500 to 322 BCE, when the major cities were conquered by Alexander the Great. And we already know he took over Egypt too. And after his death, the region became a battleground in the fight between his generals for succession and empire. Artifacts from the region have been found as far away as Britain and as close as Egypt, and it is clear that Phoenician luxury goods were highly prized by the cultures with whom they traded. Right? So I'm not really going to read the beginning of this other side of the Britannica. The first side, as you see, is the the encyclopedia. This one is the Britannica, which is also another credible source for your historical information. I'm starting off where it says the designation. So the designation of Phoenician group Phoenix is not known to have a reflex native to the Phoenicians. They typically identify themselves by their city-states, and it is certain whether or when they were considered themselves a common people. The Romana letters addressed to the Egyptian court in the 15th century BCE by Phoenician and other rulers in their vicinity make reference to the Canaan region, roughly corresponding to Phoenicia. The oldest form of government in the Phoenician cities seemed to have been kingship, limited by the power of the wealthy merchant families. Federation of the cities on a large scale never seemed to have occurred, although the cities at times fell under common rule as vassals of adjacent empires. So then, now we get into the myth, right? The myth, and then we're still on. This is most of the sources. It's the Britannica and it's the World History Encyclopedia. So, in the World History Encyclopedia, it says, although the biblical narratives depict Yahweh as the sole created God, Lord of the universe, and God of the Israelites, especially initially, he seems to have been a Canaanite in origin and subordinate to the supreme God El. Doesn't subordinate means under? Okay. Canaanite inscriptions meant to a lesser God, Yahweh, a lesser God. And even the biblical book of Deuteronomy stipulates that the Most High El gave to the nations their inheritance, and that Yahweh's portions is his people, Jacob, and his allotted heritage. That's Deuteronomy 32:8-9, right? And a passage like this reflects the early beliefs of the Canaanites and Israelites and polytheism, or more accurately, henotheism, right? Because henotheism is a belief in many gods, but they only worship one God, which is, I think it says it right here, the belief in many gods with the focus on a single supreme deity. When I found that out about the Hebrews, how they came out of henotheism, the idea of this one supreme God came out of henotheism, which is why they're the first monotheistic group besides Atonism and so forth from Akhenaten, which is a descendant of these Phoenicians over here, Mesopotamians. You know, it was just like, wow, it's mind blowing, right? I gotta get a soundboard, some shit. I need some motherfucking effects. The claim that Israel is only acknowledge that the claim that is it real only acknowledge one God is a later belief cast back on the early days of Israel's development in Canaan. And then you see here, land of Hamath, land of Edom, land of Gilead, right? You see all this shit, right? And where is that, right? Where is that? It's going back here, the map of Phoenicia. The map of Phoenicia. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. You know, it's the map of Phoenicia. So, getting into some more. Early and later religious belief and practice. Initially, the people of Canaan, including the Israelites, practice a form of ancestor worship. But what they be talking about? the Africans, right? What they be talking about with the people that want to resonate with their fellow Nubian ancestors and their Egyptian, well, not Egypt, Cometian ancestors, right? That I don't even want to say, because Ethiopian is another, that's a Greek word, Athiops. It's another one. I would just say Nubian, right? They're Nubian ancestors, right? The Cometian ancestors. They say they were worshiping their ancestors. That's not right. You're supposed to worship God, worship Shem, right? But look what it says. They initially practiced a form of ancestor worship in which they venerated the god of the father or the god of the house, in addition to paying homage to their earthly ancestors, right? In an effort to establish individual, tribal, and family connections. In time, this practice evolved in worship of deities such as El, Asherah, which is El's consort, or Yahweh's consort. And we're going to get into that too. That's how you also can connect El to Yahweh. Besides the whole Hebrew Bible telling them that El had 70 children and he gave Yahweh the earth to judge. You got Baal, and then you got Utu Shamash. Utu Shamash, which is from Shem, Shamash, right? The sun god. The sun god. And of course, information is also in this presentation. That's why I said this is going to be a powerful presentation. So Utu Shamash and Yahweh among others. Now, to make a little bit more sense to this map here, you see Kingdom of Aram, Damascus, right? Let's go back to here. Damascus, right? Over here in this red region of land of Hamath. And then Damascus over here in Phoenicia. So don't let these nigga brews, right? Because I call them nigga brews because nigga means ignorant, and they ignorant as a motherfucker. Don't let these nigga brews tell you that they're not Phoenician and that they don't worship Canaanite gods and they're not trying to associate themselves with a mythological group of people, because they are. The evidence is here. You can't beat evidence with belief. So let's continue. This is the map of the Levant, right? Circa 830 BCE. So it says, as the Israelites developed their community in Canaan, they sought to distance themselves from their neighbors and, as noted, elevated Yahweh above the traditional Canaanite supreme deity El. They did not, however, embrace monotheism at this time. The Israelites remained a henotheistic people through the time of the judges. That's why they put it judges with a capital J, as you see right there, because that is part of the Hebrew, right? The Torah, the Hebrew Bible, which predates the rise of the monarchy and throughout the time of the kingdom of Is It Real? Because we don't know if it's real. Like I said, these motherfuckers in 1904 try to get Is It Real in fucking Uganda. And then after that, they fucking begging the Rothschilds to get them in 1930 to get them over in Palestine. And as you see, 1948, there you go. They're an independent state. So here we go. Sumer. The Sumerians. Sumer. Why did I take this screenshot? Where is that pin? Where is that pin? Right? The Sumerians. Don't let these people tell you. Don't let them tell you that they're not related. Don't let them do that. They're not over here. This is Africa. Right? This is Africa. This is Mesopotamia. This is them. Syria, Turkey, right? Sumer, Iraq, Babylon, Babylonia, Syria, right? This is them. These are Canaanites. These are Mesopotamians, Phoenicians, Sumerians. Stop. Don't let them confuse you. This is why it's important to not believe anyone and look for yourself. All right. Don't take nobody's word. I don't care how much of an expert, how much time they put into to fucking studying some shit. Don't give them all that power to run with their information without making sure and confirming it's true. You can confirm it's true. You smart. This is the whole purpose of Gifted Mind State. This is the movement of Gifted Mind State. You smart. Don't downplay yourself. This is why you was gifted a brain. So we talk about Sumer, right? Baghdad, Iraq. So now we're talking about the Sumerians. The Sumerians were the people of southern Mesopotamia, whose civilization flourished between circa 4100 to 1750 BCE. Their name comes from the region, which is frequently and incorrectly referred to as a country. Sumer was never a cohesive political entity, however, but a region of city-states, each with his own king. How many times have I read that same thing talking about the Mesopotamians and the Phoenicians? Sumer was the southern counterpart to the northern region of Akkad, whose people gave Sumer its name, meaning the land of the civilized kings. Yo, this shit just makes me happy to give this information out. The Sumerians themselves referred to their region simply as the land, or the land of the black-headed people, right? The Sumerians were responsible for many of the most important innovations, inventions, and concepts taken for granted in the present day. Let's see what they say. They essentially invented time by dividing day and night into 12-hour periods, hours into 60 minutes, and minutes into 60 seconds. Their other innovations and inventions include the first schools, the earliest version of the tale of the Great Flood and other biblical narratives, the oldest heroic epic, governmental bureaucracy, monumental architecture, what? And irrigation techniques. This is why, again, it's important to do your own research. Because, as I said, the World History Encyclopedia is very credible for your historical information. Britannica is very credible. It's another encyclopedia for your historical information. But this is incorrect. Time was invented in Africa. We're going to get to that. The first schools started in Africa. How else did the Greeks even get their information? How did the Sumerians get their info? We're gonna get to the resemblance, like I said, the similarities of what the Sumerians had took. But again, even the heroic epic. So they're trying to say that their heroic epic, which is probably the Epic of Gilgamesh, predates Ptah? Huh? No way. And the irrigation techniques, which is mastered in the all up along the Nile, is what they created? No. Governmental bureaucracy? So that didn't start in that. Come on. This is what I'm saying. So after the rise of, because I don't want to get too far into that, but this is why I say you got to just look into your information, but we're going to clean it all up anyway. I just want to start where, like I said, where the belief systems originated. So when they say black people, they mean these black people that migrated out of the continent today that we call Africa into the Asian world, right? The ancestors of the Palestinians. And that's why I also don't like the social construct of the whole race shit that was created by the Europeans, because black, as long as you got brown skin, whatever is like, and yeah, everybody comes from, the continent of Africa, but it's just the whole simple fact. Everybody comes, they have different tribes, different families, different so forth. Everybody, as you see, it says what? However, but a region of city states. They never took themselves as a political entity. They never took themselves as a country. They're city states. So they was divided up. You had different tribes inside of these civilizations here. So, and this is all in the Bible anyway, right? They talk about all these different families that killing each other over land. But after the rise of the Amorites in Mesopotamia and the invasion of the Elamites, Sumer ceased to exist and was only known through references in the works of ancient writers, including the scribes who wrote the biblical book of Genesis. Sumer remained unknown until the mid-19th century CE, when excavations in Mesopotamia unearthed their civilization and brought their many contributions to light. So, Mesopotamia to the end of the Old Babylonian period. In the narrow sense, Mesopotamia is the area between the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers. I mentioned this in the beginning here, right? About with the Greeks. The name comes, Mesopotamia. The name comes from a Greek word meaning between rivers, referring to the land between the Tigris and the Euphrates River. Right? Ain't that like with the Hebrew to cross it over from the Tigris to the Euphrates? I'm just saying, yo, the information be here, it be here. Look, you just gotta get your comprehension skills up, get your critical thinking up, critical thinking skills. So information is here though. In a narrow sense, Mesopotamian is the area between the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers, north or northwest of the bottleneck at Baghdad in modern Iraq. It is Algeria. I don't even want to butcher it, but it says the island of the Arabs. South of this lies Babylonia, named after the city of Babylon. However, in the broader sense, the name Mesopotamia has come to be used for the area bounded onto the northeast by the Zagros Mountains and onto the southwest by the edge of the Arabian Plateau, and stretching from the Persian Gulf in the southeast to the spurs of the Anti-Taurus Mountains in the northwest. Only from the latitude of Baghdad do the Euphrates and Tigris truly become twin rivers. What did it say? The Rephaim of the Arabs, which has constantly changed their courses over the millennia. The low-lying plain of the Karun River in Persia has always been closely related to Mesopotamia. This is why also we get into the Persians too. But it is not considered part of Mesopotamia as it forms its own river system. Mesopotamia, south of Al-Ramadi, on the Euphrates and the bend of the Tigris below Samarra, is flat alluvial land. Between Baghdad and the mouth of Shat al-Arab, the confluence of the Tigris and Euphrates, where it empties into the Persian Gulf, there is a difference in height only about 100 feet. As a result of the slow flow of the water, the heavy deposits of silt and riverbeds are raised. Right? So they're just telling you about the Mesopotamian Old Babylonian period, which basically how they coincide together. So now dealing with the gods. So the cult of Tammuz. Look what he's holding. Look what he's holding, right? It's kind of like this, right? Kind of like this. He's holding like the flank and what was it? I forgot what else Asar, that the Greeks called Osiris, that the constellation of Orion, Orion's belt, come from, right? This is what it looks like. This is what Asar was doing. And what it says, the coat of Tammuz, Mesopotamian Tammuz, Sumerian Dumuzi, Phoenician Adonis. Pay attention to that. Adonis. And again, pay attention to what he's holding in his hands and how that's going to resemble to the ancient Egyptian or ancient Cometian god Asar, which predates Tammuz. The coat of Tammuz can be traced back to around 3000 BCE. It has a Babylonian Sumerian origination. Tammuz was allegedly resurrected by the goddess Ishtar. Sounds like Asar and Asar and Isis, or Asar and Aset, right? Tammuz's resurrection is alleged because the end of both the Sumerian and the Akkadian text of the myth of the descent of Iana or Ishtar has not been preserved. So the resurrection, again, going back to Asar, resurrected as Haru, or even this is where the Jesus story comes from, right? Jesus wasn't the only resurrection story, right? I think even Hercules resurrected. But with that being said, the story actually states that Dumuzi or Tammuz did not return from death to an earthly life, but was placed in the underworld as a substitution for Iana, which is again going back to the story of Asar, Heru, and Aset. So apparently there is only fragmentary evidence that Dumuzi had his sister take his place in the underworld for half of the year. His sister, Aset and Asar, brother and sister. Even so, the story of Tammuz is not like the resurrection story of Jesus. However, let's take a brief look at Adonis. The coat of Adonis has possibly been linked to the same parent deity of the coat of Tammuz. According to Jesse Weston and Ritual to Romance, the worship of the divinity we know as Adonis may, under another name, reach back to an antiquity equal with that we know that we can now ascribe to the coat of Tammuz. So pay attention to that name Adonis, right? It's Phoenician. We're going back to the Phoenicians, right? We already know Phoenicians, Turkey, Istanbul, all of that, right? The church of the Hagia Sophia. Oh man, we going into it. So look, this is Ishtar, Iana. Ishtar symbols. Look how close those are to kind of like the Egyptians, right? And then even her headdress, that is also a little bit significant to the Egyptians. Even his headdress, if you look at that and then you look at Asar, you're gonna see is really no different. So anywho, Ishtar symbols were the lion, right, the morning star, and 8 or 16 pointed stars. Again, symbols of power. The word Easter does not appear to be derived from Ishtar. We have I covered this in the sacrificial lamb, the resurrection of Jesus presentation that I got, but from the German Easter or Eoster, the goddess of the dawn, a bringer of light. English and German in the minority of languages that uses a form of the word Easter to mark the holiday. Elsewhere, the observance is framed in Latin Pascha, which is in turn derived from the Hebrew Pashesh, meaning of or passage, meaning of or associated with Passover, right? And this is where they this is why I did the sacrificial lamb thing, because Passage or Pascha or Easter, Passover, right, is when Jesus was crucified during the observance of Passover, when he went to go, I think it was to Jerusalem, and that's when it was occupied by the Romans. And he was what? Sacrificed. He sacrificed himself at the end, and what? He was the Lamb of God. And this is what they did. Passage is the feast of the lamb during the days of Passover. So Ishtar and Easter appear to be homophones. They may be pronounced similarly but have different meanings. Here is the Dumuzi though, right? This is another Dumuzi, and that's Iana. This is the Mrs. Mesopotamian tablets. This is dealing with, they dealt with the real shit. What was it? The Bible talks about a Holy Ghost, and all of that shit impregnated. Now they show you the real shit. They show you how you get down, So one of the gods, Hadad, the Old Testament Ramon, right? Ramon, West Semitic god of the storms, thunder, and rain. The consort of the goddess Atargatis. His attributes were identical with those of Adad of the Assyrio-Babylonian pantheon. He was the chief Baal, right? Baal, lord of the West Semites in North Syria, along the Phoenician coast and along the Euphrates River. As Baal Hadad, he was represented as a bearded deity, often holding a club and a thunderbolt and wearing a horned headdress. The bull was the symbolic animal of the Hadad and the Hittite deity Teshub, who was identical with him. So the bull is going back to ancient Egypt, which is going back to Aset and a few others, her other equivalents before her. And then you got the thunderbolt, right, which the Greeks took. So now we're gonna go into more Adad, right, which was what they said was who he was identical to. Adad was the weather god of the Babylonian and Assyrian pantheon. The name Adad may have been brought into Mesopotamia toward the end of the 3rd millennium BCE by Western Amorite, the Amorite Semites, who, his Sumerian equivalent was Ishkor. Ishkor in the West Semitic was Hadad. Adad had a twofold aspect, being both the giver and the destroyer of life. Sounds like Yahweh, right? The beginning and the end. He is the giver and the destroyer of life. His reigns, which was also coming again from the ancient Egyptian pantheon of Ra, his reigns caused the land to bear grain and other foods for his friends. Hence his title, the Lord of Abundance. Adad's father, right? His father was the heaven god Anu. Anu is actually El, right? And Adad will be Yahweh, right? So, but he is also designated as the son of Bel, Lord of all lands, of God of the atmosphere. His consort was Shalash, which may be a Horian name, right? In Babylonia, actually, there we go. Let's finish it. The symbol of Adad was the cypress, and 6 was his sacred number. 6, like the 6-pointed star, right? Like the shield of David, right? Or the shakork, right? Or I don't want to butcher that, but because it came from the Hindus first. It was the shakork or it's in here. It's in here anyway, so it don't even matter. I'm not even gonna butcher it. So this his sacred number was 6. The bull and the lion was sacred to him as well. The bull and the lion, right? The lion, which is what? The Lion of Judah. Right? So in Babylonia, Assyria, and Aleppo in Syria, he was also the god of oracles and divination. Unlike the greater gods, Adad quite possibly had no cult center peculiar to him himself, although he was worshipped in many of the important cities and towns of Mesopotamia. I'm trying to read so fast, I'm kind of like fuck it up the way I'm reading, but I just want to get, because like I said, it's so much information, and I may have to break it in parts, but yeah. So including Babylon and Ashur, the capital of Assyria, Ishkor and Mesopotamian religion, we over here now, Sumerian god of the rain and thunderstorms of spring, right? Who is what? The equivalent of Adad. He was the city god of Bit Kakaru, which is in the central steppe region. Ishkor was closely resembled to Ninhar, and such was visualized in the form of a great bull. Going back to the bull, he was the son of Sin, right? The moon god. Sin is also based off of Aset, because when you're dealing with the moon god or even the bull, Aset had the moon, or what they would say is the moon was really like, I think it was the sun, but I think it was the moon maybe, but she had the bull horns or the cow horns. So you also see when we get to it too, Sin. So Sin was the moon god. Sin also is where you get the Islamic star and the crescent, the crescent and the star from. So when portrayed in human shape, he often holds his symbol, the lightning fork. Ishkar's wife was the goddess Shalah, and his role as god of rain and thunder. Ishkar corresponded to the Sumerian deities. He was identified by the Akkadians with their god of thunderstorms that died. Sin. Right? They say it's so bad. Sin, the Sumerian Nana. In Mesopotamian religion, the god of the moon. Sin was the father of the sun god Shemesh. The sun god Shemesh. And we're going to get to Shemesh too, because Shemesh was a sun god, but he also was a Saturn god. So, which is where you get Shabbat, Saturn Day, because they are the children of Shemesh, Shemites, Semites, right? Their Saturday, Shabbat, their day of observing Saturday, their day of rest. So, and it's so much shit. Like I said, it's so simple, but it gets so deep. So, in some myths of Ishtar, goddess of Venus, and with them formed the astral triad of deities, the astral triad, right? The Holy Trinity. So, Anu, Sumerian An, Mesopotamian sky god, or what they call sky daddy. That's why we be calling, to you sheep motherfuckers, we call God your sky daddy, because that is what is based off of. Your concept of God comes from Anu. Anu is the sky god and a member of the triad of the deities completed by Enlil and Ea. Like most sky gods, Anu, although theoretically the highest god, played only a small role in mythology, hymns, and cults of Mesopotamia. He was the father not only of all the gods, but also of evil spirits and demons. Right? Wasn't God, didn't he create Lucifer? So he was of demons, most prominently the demoness Lamashtu. I should have put him in a presentation, but I didn't. Who preyed on infants, kind of like Saturn. Saturn preyed on infants too, though. Saturn actually ate his children. The Greek pantheon, though, the Greek mythology. Anu was also the god of kings in the yearly calendar. He was typically, which is funny because isn't that what they did with Jesus? They said Jesus is the King of Kings, and he also that's why they what was it? The Pope, he wound up, Alexander, he wound up putting the calendar to match the resurrection of Jesus, to match up with Ishtar or Ostar, whatever the fuck it was, Passover basically, which is also going into a whole bunch of Mesopotamian celebrations. So yeah, with that being said, he was typically depicted in a headdress with horns, a sign of strength. Going back to the horns again, His Sumerian counterpart was An, dates from the oldest Sumerian period, at least 3000 BC. Originally, he seems to have been envisaged as a great bull, a form later disassociated from the god of as a separate mythological entity, the bull of heaven, which was owned by An. His holy city was Uruk in the southern Herdan region, and the bovine imagery suggests that he belonged originally to the herders' pantheon. In Akkadian myth, Anu was assigned a consort, Antu, but she seems often to be confused with Ishtar, Iana, the goddess, celebrated goddess of love. So Ea is part of this triad, this holy trinity, right? Well, Anu. So Ea is the Sumerian Enki, right? You heard of Enki, Mesopotamian god of water, and a member of the triad of deities completed by Anu and Enlil, from a local deity worship in the city of Eridu. Ea evolved into a major god, lord of Apsu, the fresh waters beneath the earth. Although Enki means literally the lord of the earth, right? In the Sumerian myth, Enki and the world order, Enki is said to have fixed national boundaries and assigned gods their roles. According to another Sumerian myth, Enki is a creator, having to devise men as slaves to the gods. In his original form as Enki, he was associated with semen and amniotic fluid, and therefore with fertility. He was commonly represented as the half goat and half fish creature form, which the modern astrological figure for Capricorn is derived, right? That's what it says. So Ea, the Akkadian counterpart of Enki, was the god of ritual purification, ritual cleansing waters, right? Baptism. How did the Hebrews cross over, right? So ritual cleansing waters were called Ea's waters. Ea governed the arts of sorcery and incantation. In some stories, he was also the form of giving god, and thus the patron of craftsmen and artists. He was known as the barrier of culture. He is the role as the advisor to the king, like the Boule. Ea was a wise god, although not a forceful one. In the Akkadian myth, as Ea's character evolves, he appears frequently as a clever mediator who could be devious and cunning. He is also significant in Akkadian mythology as the father of Marduk, the national god of Babylonia. So these are a lot of attributes coming that basically what Yahweh took. if you picking up on it. Hopefully you didn't have to hear me drinking some water in the mic. But Enlil is a Mesopotamian god in the atmosphere and a member Mesopotamian god of the atmosphere and a member of the triad gods of completed by Anu and Ea. Enlil meant Lord Wind, right? Which is where spirit come from. Spiritus, wind, breathe, breath. Both the hurricane and the gentle winds of the spring were thought as the breath issuing from his mouth, and eventually as his words or command. Sounds familiar, right? He was sometimes called the Lord of Air. So this is another attribute to Yahweh. Although An was the highest god in the Sumerian pantheon, Enlil had a more important role in the embodiment of energy, force, and authority. Enlil's cult centra, I got hiccups, burping a little bit. Enlil's cult centra was Nippur. Enlil was a god of agriculture. The myth of the creation of the hoe describes how he separated heaven and earth to make room for seeds to grow. He then invented the hoe and broke the hard crust of the earth. Men sprang forth from the opening. Another myth relates Enlil's rape of his consort, Ninlil, a grain goddess, and his subsequent banishment to the underworld. This myth reflects the agricultural agricultural cycle of fertilization, ripening, and winter inactivity. Enlil was eventually replaced by Marduk as the executive of the Babylonian pantheon. He continued to be extolled, however, as a high god of Nippur until the end of the second second millennium BCE. He remained an important deity there until the next millennium. Crazy. So now we getting into what we talking about. We just got to the attributes where Yahweh comes from, right? Because we talk about henotheistic, right? The Phoenicians were henotheistic. They believed in multiple gods, but they only worshipped one when they became what people are now calling the Israelites, right? And with them taking on this henotheism, you see that, you know, this is the creation of, well, these are attributes of their one God. So now we go into the creation of this Genesis. The myth of Adapa, right? Also known as Adapa and the flood of life. This is the Mesopotamian story of the fall of man. The fall of man, right? Sounds familiar, like Adam and Eve. In that it explains why human beings are mortal, or like why in the story of Genesis why human beings die, because they eat from the tree of life, they eat from the tree of knowledge. The god of wisdom, Ea, creates the first man, Adapa, and endows him with great intelligence and wisdom, but not with immortality. And when immortality is offered by Adapa, the great god Anu, Ea tricks Adapa into refusing the gift. Right? So this sounds like the serpent tricking, but the only thing is different because they were gifted with the living immortality, right? They were Adam and Eve was gifted with immortality and not with no knowledge. They only knew what they were told by God. They were ignorant, right? They were like children. So Ea basically gifts the first man intelligence and wisdom, but not immortality. Then this serpent, right, like basically like Anu, comes and basically tries to trick him and makes him refuse the gift of immortality. It says that it's no good for him, right? So, damn, I should have just kept reading it because it says it right there anyway. Though it is not expressed directly in the myth, Ea's reasoning in this seems similar to Yahweh's in the Genesis story from the Bible, where after Adam and Eve are cursed for eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, Yahweh cast them out before they can eat also of the tree of life. Because if they would have ate from the tree of life, they would have been living. So he's like, nah, get the fuck out of here. Right? Some bullshit. But it's a bullshit story. It's myth. It's a legend. It's to teach a lesson. Continuing on. If Adam and Eve were immortal, they would be on par with Yahweh, and there would be a loss of status for the God. And this is Ea's same reasoning in the Adapa myth. In the Genesis myth, man takes knowledge for himself by eating of the tree. In the Mesopotamian myth, the god Ea grants man knowledge in the process of creation. Knowing that Adapa is already wise, Ea, like Yahweh in the later story from Genesis, needs to keep the man in his place. Sounds kind of like the way the government be trying to keep people in their place, right? Like, don't talk bad about the government. That's sedition. That's sedition. Go to jail. So summary: Adapa was the king of the city of Eridu, right? Eridu, we seen that. Oh, Ea, right? Ea was worshipped in the city of Eridu. So Adapa was a king, the king. So you got king and you got Ea. This is kind of tying in with who? Aten and Akhenaten, right? So, yeah, the myth tells us he went fishing one day in the Persian Gulf, right? When the south wind suddenly capsized his boat and hurled him into the sea. Furious at this, Adapa broke the wing of the south wind, and for 7 days the wind could not blow. The sky god Anu is angered by this and sends for Adapa to explain himself. Adapa receives counsel from Ea on how he should behave in the court of the gods. As Ea is Adapa's father god and creator, Adapa trusts him to tell him the truth. But Ea fears that Anu is apt to offer Adapa the food and drink of eternal life, and Ea is intent on making sure that Adapa does not accept the offer. Adapa, the Mesopotamian mythology. It is the Mesopotamian mythology legendary sage and citizen of the Sumerian city of Eridu, the ruins of which are in southern Iraq. Endowed with vast knowledge, right? We ain't gonna read all of that because we already read all of it. But now we can see fall of man and Christian doctrine, the descent of humanity from a state of innocence, lived in the presence of God to a sinful world of misery and death. After disobeying God and eating the forbidden fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, Adam and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden and cursed in various ways. According to this Christian concept of original sin, Adam's guilt was transmitted to all of humanity only to the death and resurrection of Jesus could erase the stain of Adam's disobedience. Sounds like a great movie. That is a great movie. You start with a motherfucker making a bad choice, right? And his decision winds up ruining the future, as that basically happens. Our decisions kind of alters the future because the children are impressionable and they wind up taking all these traits and habits of what we have and carrying on, not breaking the toxic cycle, and shit fuck up. The Israelites was going through shit. They was wandering in the wilderness over 40 years, shit like that. Come on. Took all the way to Jesus to be resurrected for motherfuckers to then experience heaven. Well, not heaven, but, not have to deal with sin no more, because all you got to do is be baptized in the name of Jesus. The creation and expulsion from the Garden of Eden. Am I going to read this? No, I'm not. Now, this right here is sin. Sin, right? This is sin. Where is sin at? I got sin somewhere in here. Here we go. This is sin. The Mesopotamian god, right? The god of the moon. Sin was the father of the sun god Shemesh, right? And I also show Shemesh. But as you see the crescent. And then all the way over here on the right, you see the crescent and the star, right? And not only do you see the crescent and the star, but you also see what? The sun and Saturn all the way on the right. Yeah. So I was just showing all of these nations that basically took the crescent and the star, right? Even the Nation of Islam, and it's all coming from Shemesh. I mean, not Shemesh, Sin, the moon god, right? The moon worshippers. It's the moon. So sin. Did I read a lot of sin? You know what? We're not really gonna go so much into it. But it says he bore Shemesh. We already know that. Let's see. I don't think we have to really do this. And a good thing about this is too, with these presentations that I have, I will be offering them on giftedmindstate.com. I'm not sure if they're gonna be free or not. I may have them free, but they'll be here so you can download them, open them up on your phone or on your computer, and you'll be able to get this information for yourself. So we're gonna go into the Greek though, in the Roman mythology of Sin or Selene, right? Greek for moon, Latin for luna, right? The personification of the moon as a goddess. She was worshipped at the new and full moons. Her Her brother was Helios, the sun god. Right? She bears the beautiful Pandiac to Zeus. Says they're parents of Herse and the Dew. I don't really got to read too much of this. Besides, in another story, she was loved by Pan. We already know about Pan, right? Pan is also associated with Capricorn. So now, going into this bull, right? Going into the bull, say like the moon, right? See, I usually say that's the moon or the sun. But you see the bull horns, the cow horns. That's a set holding Heru, right? And what they talk about with Anu. Anu was he was personified as a bull. You know, who else? They also had others with the bull. So where was that? Right here. Hadad, right? So yeah, she had the bull horn. So this is predating the Mesopotamian civilizations, right? Now, in here, we are 1 Corinthians 8. Why are we here? For sin. The show about sin. So going down to 1 Corinthians 8:12, it says right here, but when ye sin, so against the brethren, and wound their weak conscience, ye sin against Christ. Right? Talk about sin. But it ain't the same sin. This is the sin that they talk about. This is the Hebrews. Remember, the Hebrews during the Hellenistic period broke away from the Greeks. This is where the Hebrews come from. So this is when they talk about sin, worshiping sin. But notice though, 1 Corinthians 8, but when ye sin so against the brethren, right, and wound their weak conscience, ye sin against Christ. But if you sin against Christ, but you go into a temple called the synagogue, and this is over here where they're at, and is it real? What does it say? How you see it? S-I-N, not S-Y-N. S-I-N, synagogue. And then as you see over here on the map, Mount Sinai, wilderness of sin. Sinai, come on. It's all in the face. It's all there. It's just when your belief can really, you know, that's why they say with the imagination is very powerful. And in order to believe in something, you have to use your imagination. So, you know, sometimes it can supersede, it can manipulate one's perception. So the way something is, you won't see it as that. You see it as what your imagination is taking control of. So the gods were, as mentioned previously, organized in a polity of a primitive democratic caste. They constituted as it were a landed nobility, each god owning and working in his state, his temple and its lands, and controlling the city in which it was located. On a national level, they attended the General Assembly of the Gods, which was the highest authority in the cosmos, to vote on matters of national import such as election or deposition of kings. The major gods also served on the national level as officers having charge of cosmic offices, right? So even when we talk about the cosmic, the cosmos, cosmology, astronomy, that didn't start in Mesopotamia. That didn't start in Mesopotamia. It says, thus, for example, Shamash, right? Shem, the sun god, was the judge of the gods, in charge of justice and righteousness generally. Highest in the pantheon and presiding in the divine assembly ranked Anu, god of heaven, who was responsible for the calendar and the seasons as they were indicated by the appropriate stars. Next came Enlil, god of the winds and the agriculture, creator of the whole. Enlil executed the verdicts of the divine assembly. Equal in the rank to An, Enlil was the goddess Nintor, goddess of the stony ground. the Nair mountain ranges in the east and the stony desert in the west with its wildlife, wild asses, gazelles, wild goats, etc. She was also the goddess of birth. With these was joined seemingly, she must be the Holy Spirit. Well, actually, I would say, not the Holy Spirit, obviously. She would be Mary, right? So, seemingly secondarily, Enki, god of the sweet waters of rivers and marshes, he was the cleverest of the gods and a great troubleshooter, often appealed to by both gods and men. Enlil's sons were the moon god Sin and the god of thunderstorms. Was that Nerutera? Sin's sons were the sun god and judge of earth Utu, which is Shamash, and the rain god Adad or Ishkar, and his daughter, the goddess of war and love and morning star Ishtar or Iana. Iana's ill-fated young husband was the herd of Dumuzi, or Akkadian Tammuz. The dread netherworld was ruled by the goddess and her husband Nergal, right? You'll see that a lot too. Nergal, a figure closely related to Mesalink. Look, I'm not even trying to butcher all of this, but yeah. So demons play little to no role in the myths of or lists of the Mesopotamian pantheons. So dealing with the Hebrews, right? Because when they got with this 6-point star, which was like the star to keep away these demons and so forth, which is where the exorcisms of Christianity or Catholicism comes from, says it played little to no role. Their domain was that of incantations. Mostly they were depicted as outlaws. The demoness Lamashtu, for instance, was hurled from heaven by her father An. Because of her wickedness, the demons attacked human beings by causing all kinds of diseases and were, as a rule, viewed as a wind and storm beings, consonant with the classical view of the universe as a cosmic state. It was possible for a person to go to the law courts against the universe. Against the demons. An example to see secret recourse before Utu and obtain judgments against them, right? Gotta drink some water. This shit is crazy. These lights really be making me dehydrated. I guess because it makes you sweat. God damn. I don't know how you YouTubers do it. Maybe because the lights be too far, but the lights is kind of close to me. They on me. If I could turn the camera around and show you, they on me. Pardon. I'm very parched. Now, with that being said, we're going into the mysteries of Egypt, right? This is a Canadian Museum of History, the Egyptian civilization and religion, the divine family. This is where the Boule get their divine nine from, right? The divine family. So the pharaohs of Egypt trace their lineage to the god Horus, or Heru, which is correct, how you say it correctly. Heru was the son of Asar, but they say Osiris, but I'm going to be correct with it. Asar and Aset, which is Isis. Two of the 9 primeval gods of the Egyptian Ennead. The story begins when Osiris, or I was going to say it correctly, Asar reigned on earth and married his sister Aset. Their mission was to bring civilization to humanity, to teach people about the practice of government, religion, and marriage. Right? Government. They would just talk about that over there. Governmental what was it? Not democracy, bureaucracy. Aset's magical healing powers and her knowledge of weaving, crop growing, corn grinding, and flax spinning was also passed to the Egyptian people. Holding on a crook and a flail, Osiris sits on his throne under a canopy in judgment of the dead. His wife Aset, Isis, right? Because I already know I said Osiris, and his sister Nephthys stand behind him. This is the Book of the Dead, they call it, which is really the Book of Forthcoming Day and Night. It's the proper way to say that book. But as you see, right, the crook and the flail, going back to the beginning, right, of Tammuz. What that look like? A crook and a flail. Look like he's holding the same thing. Right? One is older than the other. This one predates the other. Now we getting into, murder. Murder, She Wrote, right? This is where you get your Cain and Abel story from. So one day, disaster struck. Seth, the god of disorder, murdered his brother Osiris. Right? Set, the god of disorder, murdered his brother Asar, the god of order. Set was furious because his wife Nephthys had conceived a child named Anubis by Asar. The murder happened at a banquet when Set invited guests to lie down in the coffin he had made for the king. Several guests tried unsuccessfully. When Asar climbed in, Set and his conspirators nailed down the lid and weighed the coffin down with the lead and cast it into the Nile. This happened in July when the waters of the Nile was rising. Noon, the primeval sea took Osiris away to hide his secrets. The death of Asar threw the cosmos into the chaos and made the gods weep. Set, greatly distraught, wandered throughout the land in search of her husband, asking everyone if they had seen him. And this is where Haru winds up coming from, which is then going into like the story of Mary and Jesus. So this is Ptah. Ptah is one of the oldest deities, as you see all the way over here on the right. Remember what I said, pre-dynastic period. This is dealing with the pre-dynastic period. 6,000, circa 6,000 to 3150 BCE he was worshipped. So Ptah is one of the oldest Egyptian gods who appears in the first dynastic period, 3150 BCE, but most likely dates from the pre-dynastic period, 6000 BCE. Ptah was the great god of Memphis. Right, you heard El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, aka Baba Omawale, Malcolm X, right? He spoke of how Memphis over here is the same as Memphis over there, right? So he's the creator of the world, Lord of truth, and chief god of the city of Memphis and its surrounding areas. Circa BCE. Ptah was originally the figure who stood on the primordial mound of the Benben at the creation of the world. He was probably an early fertility god and is associated with the moringa tree. I just had some moringa tea earlier. I may have some later after this. Which in an early myth he liked to rest beneath. Moringa has a lot of health benefits, by the way. It has more vitamin C than motherfucking oranges. It has protein. It has iron, more iron than spinach. It has a whole bunch of, it has calcium, more calcium, dairy. And, you know, dairy is bad for you anyway. All that cow milk. You ain't a baby cow. But I'm glad I got to read that. Because, yeah, moringa, definitely look into getting some moringa powder or some moringa leaves. Make some tea, put it in your smoothie. However you choose to get that in your system, but get it. That being said, he was the Patreon god of sculptors and craftsmen, as well as builders of monuments, as he was thought to have sculpted the earth. He was sometimes known as Ptah Nun or Ptah Nunet in his creative aspect, linking him with the primordial substances of the Ogadad. He is depicted as a mummified man wearing a skull cap. Why my light going off? Don't do that to me. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, hold up. Hold up, my light. Are we gonna? There we go. Alright. So, he's depicted as a mummified man wearing a skull cap, right? It's what we wear. Do-rags. Stocking caps. right? Holding the Wa scepter of authority, which now, as you see, is what they call a fascist, the bundle of sticks, which is for authority, which is what you'll also see in the Roman Empire, the fascist movement, of course, with Mussolini and all of them. It's on the Lincoln Memorial, his monument. He got two fascists under his arms. And then you also got the Sergeant at Arms, right? The United States Sergeant at Arms. He also has the fascists. So it's the same thing, the scepter of authority, with the Ankh and the Jad symbols at the top. The only difference is the Sergeant at Arms, his has the orb of the world, which comes from the medieval times, which is the Britons, the Normans, and all of them. And as far as the fascists, with the fascist movement, they have an axe, which is for the Roman Empire. So just wanted to show a little bit of the inspiration of Ptah, right? Because many may not know. So Ptah was stolen, and they used them as the statuette for the Oscars, right? So this is actually where they get it from, and you can see it as the same thing, the way they're holding it, all of that, everything's the same. So yeah, I read Ptah already. This is another illustration of Ptah, right? You get a nice little see, and as you see his skin complexion, right? Have you ever seen a brown person born? We get a patch on our back, and it's the same color, right? So this is where that comes from, because he is what? Oh, actually, I'm bugging. It's right there. He is the creation of the world, right? Of humanity. Early fertility god. So this is that. This is how you knew these Nubians, these pre-dynastic Cometians, they were intelligent. All the information that we're dealing with now, they already laid the foundation for it. We just catching up. Now this is Bat. Bat actually predates a Set, right? As you see, this is where the horns for a Set comes from. Comes from Bat. Let me turn this light off. Let me see how we looking over here. All right, it's still like it's a little messed up, but it's all right. So Bat was an early cow goddess associated with fertility and success. She is one of the oldest Egyptian goddesses, dating from the early dynastic period, 6000 to 3150 BCE. Bat is depicted as a cow or a woman with cow ears and horns, and is most probably the image at the top of the Narmer palette. She was associated with the king's success. She blessed people with success owing to her ability to see both the past and the future, which is where the Romans get their Janus god from. January, the New Year's, past, future. They had two faces. They would see both. This is where you see the two heads of Bat. See, all of this stuff, like I said, is all inspired from ancient Kemet and Nubia. Eventually, she was absorbed by Hathor, who took on her characteristics. And Hathor also, again, with a Set. So, showing here, this is his Narma, right? Egyptian goddess, Egyptian Bat. Now, this is Heka. Heka would be like, you would say, Thought, right? Or they call, I forgot his other name, but Tahuti, right? Tahuti, which is his original name, but Thought is his Greek name. This is, they talk about the god of medicine. Also, like Imhotep, god of medicine. Well, not the god of medicine. Imhotep was a real person, but this is god of magic and medicine. So, alchemy and so forth. He was as you see, recognize early pre-dynastic period in Egypt down here, circa 6000 BCE. So this is before Tahuti. In the present day, most people do not associate magic with medicine, but for the ancient Egyptians, the two were almost one discipline. The Ebers Papyrus, one of the most complete medical texts extant, claims that medicine is effective with magic. Magic meaning the placebo effect, by the way, illusion, right? Because they understood psychology. They understood how powerful the mind is. Don't downplay these people's intelligence, man. Look, it's probably because they was eating healthier. They wasn't dealing with the soy and all this pesticides and all the stuff that's messing up our gut and messing up our brain and our thinking and so forth. Because these people were smart, right? So since disease was thought to have a supernatural origin, a supernatural defense was the best course. Diseases were caused either by the will of the gods, an evil demon, or an angry spirit, and the spells against these demons and spirits were common cures for sickness throughout Egypt's history. Now that is European interpretation right there. So angry spirit will be more on the lines of when you're dealing with pain, people really are irritated. They're irritable. It'd be like that, but this is, again, European interpretation. They didn't understand the thinking of the ancestors the way they thought. So Egyptian doctors, known as priests of Heka, were not trying to trick a patient with some sleight of hand, but with invoking real powers to effect a cure. The practice Heka called, which is now voodoo, right, called upon the deity which made it possible, Heka, as well as other gods who were thought to be especially helpful in whatever disease presented itself. Egyptologist Jan Assmann explains. Assmann, yeah, because some asinine ass interpretation right there. Let's see. All right, it's 10:35. Let me see. Let me check and see how long we've been live for. If it's been an hour and a half, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this and we're gonna come back, right? Because it only makes sense. I'm not trying to prolong this for too long. We've been on for an hour. All right. So you know what? We're gonna cut. I'm gonna cut, and we're gonna come back. We're gonna keep it right here at Neef, right? So we be back.